You're watching PowerNation. If you're serious about your high-performance engine, there are two things you'll always do.
One is testing and tuning it to perfection, and the other is performing the maintenance needed to keep it running long and strong. Welcome to Engine Power, where we are back in our favorite place, our dyno cell. And that's because we're going to continue thrashing on our 360 cubic inch small block Chevy, affectionately named Compression Obsession. Last time, we picked up a bunch of power, and this is where we ended up. We kept the existing rotating assembly, but swapped in a custom grind solid roller camshaft with more duration and lift. Duration at 50 thousandths lift is 252 degrees on the intake and 260 degrees on the exhaust. Lobe separation angle is 110 degrees. Lift at the valve is 653 thousandths on the intake and 660 thousandths on the exhaust. We degreed the cam, setting the intake centerline at 105.5 degrees. We used a Jesel Valvetrain setup along with Comp and Durex solid roller lifters. Running the AFR 220 eliminator heads, we have a measured static compression ratio of 13.36 to 1. After reinstalling a Summit Racing harmonic balancer, we added an MSD 7-inch flying magnet crank trigger assembly. This will give us incredibly accurate ignition timing, which is very beneficial at higher RPM.
The Jesel rockers are 1.5 to 1 ratio, and they are torqued to 26 pound-feet. An Edelbrock Super Victor intake manifold came next, followed by an MSD crank trigger distributor. We wanted to see how this engine would run on E85. We used racing E85 to ensure consistent ethanol level in the fuel. For fuel metering, we chose the QFT 850 CFM E85 drag race carburetor, which we got from Holley. It's designed to handle the higher fuel flow of the ethanol. With 35 degrees of total timing, the small block made 567 horsepower and 477 pound-feet of torque. That's almost 100 horsepower more than our previous gasoline-based run. We experimented with several spacers and got the best result from the 2-inch tall, 4-hole tapered spacer, yielding 576 horsepower and 485 pound-feet of torque. Now that was a lot of fun, but we still have plenty to do. We're going to continue tuning on this current fuel to see what it'll do, and then we're going to change it up with some different fuel to see if we can make some more power. Also, we're going to show you some cool tech that helps keep your race engine together. So without further ado, let's get to it.
Can't get after it too much. We're still on a stock cast crank.
All right, with any new dyno session, we have to establish a new baseline. We have a different day. The air correction is different. More importantly, the air is different as far as inlet temperature and humidity. So we're going to reestablish a baseline to see where we're at.
Ready?
4 to 7.
All right, here we go. Baseline.
Nice engine.
Wow.
That's good. 567. Yeah. I'll take that. 476. So
a little bit lower, but
a tad bit lower, but that's okay.
Just looking at the air fuel ratio, it's a little bit leaner,
yeah,
which is a factor of the different air and stuff. But yeah, I made a little bit less, but I think we could definitely pick that back up and maybe go a little bit more.
When vacuum goes up, it means there's no detonation. If you have pan vacuum and it goes up, 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 and then it comes back down, then the engine's starting to go into detonation.
Yeah, and you have cylinder pressure escaping into the pan. So,
this is one of the rare things that we do, though, when we're actually adding fuel instead of taking it away.
Yeah.
To do that, we'll pull the float bowls and increase the primary and secondary jets by 6 sizes, giving us 99s in the front and 107s in the back. This seems like a large increase, but alcohol fuel requires much larger changes because of the additional fuel flow.
We'll see what it does.
See what she does. Ready?
The proof is in the dyno numbers.
Here we go.
We'll see a little result.
Maybe.
There. Okay, so it picked up.
Just a little bit, yeah.
It went 568.6, which that's good, and it picked up a little bit of torque.
Yeah, and all the way through there, it picked up a little bit, which is nice. think we can go a little bit more and be safe. So.
Okay, well, we'll see if we can put some more to it.
We'll repeat the process, adding 3 more jet sizes for 102s in the front and 110s in the rear.
See what she does.
Well, it didn't drop power.
No? I don't know if it made any more, but
Well, it made a tad bit
a little
more.
bit.
I mean, we're almost back to where we were on the other with the different air conditions.
Yeah.
So we're at 569.8. We're going to call that 570.
Yeah, and 482.9 pound-feet. I mean, there's a little bit of pickup here in the middle torque range, but I mean, the rest of the way, it almost looks the same. The only thing we could do is it's, up in the upper RPM range, the BSFC starting to go up, so it's starting to richen up a little bit. We could put some air bleed in it.
Let's go 4 thousandths on the air bleed and see what that does.
Yeah, I agree.
That's an easy fix. We gotta pull the air horn.
That's not that hard.
We'll stuff a shop towel into the Venturis to ensure that the air bleeds can't accidentally fall into the carburetor. We're swapping out the 31 thousandths air bleeds that this carb came with for a set of 35s in the high-speed circuit.
All right, going from a 31 high-speed air bleed to a 35.
Hopefully that affects the top end of the pull and this cleans it up a little bit. Not that it's bad, but we're hunting for power here.
Little rooms for improvement, that's all. All right, well, only one way to find out, right?
That's what I said.
Here we go.
Well, might have snuck a couple in there, I don't know.
Maybe?
Hey!
Hi, 572, okay.
Okay.
Picking back up.
So basically we're tuning for conditions. Now, the dyno corrects so you can compare apples to apples, so, but, the engine's tune-up obviously is effective. If it's too lean, it's not gonna make as much.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, the air will still affect that, but I mean, that's the gain right there, so that's just the change we just did.
See what happens, and it starts picking up right after 5,500.
Yep,
It
just
starts
a little
to
bit,
separate.
but it's there, yeah. And you can definitely correlate that to the BSFCs.
Yep.
Yep, because they're just a little bit lower.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, what you thinking?
Well,
You want to do some more fuel stuff, or you want to move on?
I think we should move on, right? I think there's something that we want to show that I think we haven't shown in a long time, or haven't shown as much as we should have, and it's the magic lash loops.
Yeah, I think we definitely do that. Heck yeah, let's do it. Up next, running lash loops on your engine can tell you a lot about how it's running and help you pick up a little extra power. Like we said, we're going to try some lash loops on this engine, but we wanted to take a second to explain what that actually means. When you run lash loops, you increase and decrease the amount of lash the engine has, and it effectively changes the duration of the camshaft. It's something that's very specific for each application, so you just have to try it and see what happens.
For instance, if you increase the lash and the engine picks up, chances are the cam may be a little big for the application. But if you decrease the lash and the engine picks up, chances are you may need a bigger camshaft. Since this is a dyno mule, this is a great place to try something.
The first thing we're going to try is increasing the lash 5 thousandths. This effectively shrinks the cam lobe's profile slightly in both duration and lift.
Okay.
All right, what's your guess?
For power?
Yeah. Is gonna pick it up, or?
I don't think so, but you never know.
That's why we're here.
That's why we do this. So I mean, I don't think so, but we wouldn't know unless we tried it. So coolant temp back where it's supposed to be, and everything should be good.
Give her a rip.
See what happens.
I think it dropped a little bit of power.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it should do. Right?
I mean, yeah, and that's what you would see if you put a smaller cam in. So that makes a lot of sense. If that's, you know, if you were going to put a smaller cam in, apparently that's what you would see.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. It's just it's something you try and something you find out. So now we'll go the other way, tighten it up, and see what it does there.
And a word to just clarify this: you can only increase lash on a lobe usually about 5 thousandths before you start getting into trouble.
Yeah.
You can decrease the lash. You can tighten the lash up as much as almost where it won't start when it's cold.
Yeah,
But,
when the lash shrinks too much. But yeah.
Yeah, but you so it's easier and it's safer to tighten the lash. Now we'll decrease the lash from our original setting by 5 thousandths. That's a 10 thousandth swing in valve lash. Okay, so this is sort of an abbreviated test, right? Because normally you would just pick one and go with one, like you do the intake or you do the exhaust. We're doing them together, but it's going to show the general of why we do lash loop.
Yeah, and it kind of shows the effect of it. Like we increased the lash and we lost power. So hopefully now that we swung the other way, I mean, we swung 10 thousandths of lash.
Big.
So it should at least restore the power that we lost. Hopefully maybe pick up a little bit from where we started.
Now we'll see here.
All right, ready?
Let her back.
Here we go.
Well, I think it did
I think
something.
I saw something there.
I think it might be okay.
Oh, snap. Okay, 577.9 horsepower and
Yep.
482.9 pound-feet.
Yep,
So that's a definite improvement.
That's an improvement. Now it's a little improvement, right? Now,
Yeah.
if you overlay that,
Okay, so here's before we did any lash adjustment at all. We didn't do it. This is before we did any lash loops.
okay,
So down low, trading back and forth.
Yep.
Above 6,000, I would say, definitely has a noticeable increase.
okay, so that says if you're trending, it said, okay, if you look at that and say, well, could this use a bigger cam for that operating range? I think you could probably put a few more degrees in it
Yeah.
and it would be okay.
And it's good because you can look at that and say, okay, so if I did go a few more degrees, you wouldn't lose anything down low, but you would definitely benefit up top.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool that we can show that, you know, just it's something simple that you can do,
Yep.
but something that you can actually see the gains from
But
it. So.
to do this and actually see a gain or see a loss, you're going to need a dyno.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
But that's what dynos are for.
But that's why we're doing this, so everybody else can know that, you know, this is something that you can try. Depends on the engine to see the result, but on this one,
But
it definitely picked up.
Look
yeah.
how far it swung power from when it had basically effectively a smaller.
And we can
by a little
show
bit.
that. I mean, this is our 10 degrees of lash from excess lash to us decreasing the lash. I mean, that's a huge difference.
Like a lot. It's like what was that, 12 horse up top or something like
Let's
that.
see here.
What is it at 7,000?
Yeah, it's like 13 horse
Nice.
at 7,000. So
That's just from a few thousandths of lash adjustments.
yeah, that's pretty cool.
I love engines.
Heck yeah! All right.
We've been having a lot of fun with E85, but we want to see what our engine can do on 104 octane race gas. We have been having lots of fun and learning some stuff running E85 on our current setup. It's been letting us get after the tune, and this thing is making some great power. But that begs the question, what would happen if we ran this engine on real racing gasoline? Well, we are about to find out. We are going to switch out our 850, which is an E85 specific 850 from QFT, to Old Reliable, which is our dyno carburetor, our QFT Black Diamond 950. Now, this one is a little bit bigger, 950 versus 850, but it's not as much about the carburetor as about what the fuel will do. All we have to do is get the fuel in the cell changed out. I already have this most of the way unhooked. We'll get Old Reliable on, make a hit. Our fuel is 104-octane unleaded racing fuel. It's oxygenated and has a stoichiometric ratio of 13.34 to 1, which means even though it's much more expensive, it will use less fuel. All right, same sweep, same RPM range. We have switched out the E85 carburetor for our gasoline one. Let's make a hit, see what happens. What it did do, it made more power. 591, 489 pound-feet. So that is a significant gain over the E85, but that tells you something, that the E85 wasn't exactly that bad. The E85 was almost as good as the expensive race fuel. Now we're talking race fuel now that's $20 a gallon versus E85, which is not $20 a gallon. But that is pretty impressive. Can we improve on that? I'm not sure. We could probably give it a try and maybe rub on it some more. Again, if you did the same thing that you would do with this setup that you would at the 85, you would just be, you'd be further ahead because that's why you're trying things. Engines react differently to different fuels. The big part of this one is the fuel was better. Race gas is designed to be better. E85, though, is a good alternative. If you don't have race gas available and you have E85, you can get after the tune-up almost as much and make almost as much power as race gas. So it was a great test. Up next, to keep your engine healthy, sometimes it needs a thorough examination. We just finished up a successful dyno session testing some things and learning on our Compression Obsession 360 small block Chevrolet. Now we're going to take the opportunity to see how well the engine is living, both from a cylinder sealing standpoint and a Valvetrain standpoint, and we have a few specialty tools on the table to make that happen. For the cylinders, I'll show you how to check them a couple of different ways, both with a leak down gauge and a cranking compression gauge. The leak down gauge pressurizes the cylinder and shows the differential on a gauge of how much cylinder leakage you have. The cranking compression gauge screws into the spark plug hole and you turn the engine over with the starter and it generates a pressure on the gauge to show how much pressure the cylinder is generating. Now obviously we're doing this after our dyno session, but this is standard procedure to do after a race car comes off the track. If you have bad leak down or not enough cranking compression like you had before, chances are you've hurt the engine and got to tear it back down. For the Valvetrain, we're going to recheck our torque on our adjusters and we're going to recheck our lash. We know what our cold lash setting was versus our hot, so that's easy to find out if something's moving around. For the valve springs, we'll recheck the seat pressure of the spring with our portable tool here. We set the heads up on the bench so we know how much spring pressure they had initially, so we will check to see how they're living. These are both great indicators on how well the engine is handling the abuse you are giving it. If things aren't doing what they should and they're not holding up, chances are you have to look at your combination and make a few adjustments. Obviously, we'll check every cylinder, but we'll start on the number 1 at TDC of its compression stroke. Checking leak down allows you to verify the seal on the valves and the rings. We use 100 psi as our base pressure. A reading of under 10% is an indicator of a well-sealed cylinder. After that is completed, we'll do a cranking compression test on each cylinder. With the gauge hooked up, we'll turn the engine over with the starter until the needle stops going up. The value will be different for every engine, but generally numbers over 160 psi indicate a healthy engine. You should always check this before running the engine so you have a reference point. We'll go through and check our cold lash to verify that it hasn't changed. Too much lash indicates premature wear, and not enough lash could indicate valve tuliping. The torque is checked on all of the adjuster nuts. Even if you are not adjusting the lash, it's a good thing to double check. This cool tool from LSM allows us to check valve spring seat pressures on the engine. A drop from the original set spring pressure can indicate that the springs are nearing the end of their service life. Another critical part of preventative maintenance is cutting apart and inspecting the oil filter. A high-quality oil filter cutter like this one from Goodson makes the job go smoothly. If there's any debris, the material type will tell you what's wearing inside the engine. For instance, gold or aluminum flakes would indicate premature bearing wear. We'll cut the filter element out with a razor so it comes out cleanly and is easier to inspect. Now this filter is super clean, and that's a good indication that nothing is going on that's bad. We do this on every engine that we dyno, whether you see us do it or not. That's a standard procedure on anything that you're going to dyno or anything that you race. So when the filter's clean, you know the engine's doing well. The tech we've done today here is universal. It'll work on your daily driver, your weekend warrior, or even your full tilt race engine. And I must say that our stock cast crank 360 has done everything that we have asked of it. And in the future, we're gonna ask it to do more. But until then, I'm gonna get this engine unhooked, and then I'm gonna go try and find Frankie because he's taking a little bit too much time chasing parts. He's probably out getting some ice cream or a petting zoo, or I don't know what kids do nowadays.
If you want to see more cool tech like this, go check out PowerNation.